tell this story. Daniel in the lion's den, in his desperate need, the lions had lockjaw. When David faced the paw of the bear and the paw of the lion, God in him prevailed. When he faced great Goliath, he said, you come to me with a spear and a sword, but I come to you in the name of the Lord. Hallelujah. When the 3 Hebrew children stood without the fiery furnace, the 4th man in the fire said, come on in. The temperature's just right. Hallelujah. There's protection. There's safety and preservation in God. In a closing thought now. A few years ago, my daughter, when she was just a small child, I was preaching a revival. The phone rang, as it has many, many times in revival. And my wife said, you must come home. I said, Nancy, I can't. She said, Kelly has pneumonia. I said, I'm sorry. I cannot come. She said, you must come. I said, no. I said, I must do the work that God has called me to do. And I must trust God to heal my daughter. I said, lay your hand on her. And I said, Father, I'm here doing your work. You have sent me. A revival has broke out. I will not leave. I trust you with my daughter. God healed her. Another occasion, I was pastoring not too far from this place. We went into the trailer one night, and my daughter could barely get air into both of her lungs. She was gasping for just a little air in her lungs. I carried her into the room, into the back room. I said, honey, we better take her to the hospital. The hospital was a good ways away. The roads were bad, and it was snowing, I believe. My memory does not fail me. It was bad that night. I looked at my wife and I said, we better take her to the hospital. And something inside of me spoke and said, if you take her out of this house, she will die. And I thought, my Lord. I said, Nancy, let's carry her to the bedroom. You fix her down. I laid my hand on her and I said, Lord, I give her to you tonight again. I went to the bed. The following morning, I was awakened by the heavy romp of a great big girl. But through the night watches, he who was faithful, he who was dependable, had healed her lungs. There have been times that I've carried them to the doctor. When my boy was just 9 months old, I prayed, and God spoke to me, and he said, take him to the doctor. When I carried him to the doctor, they said, the reason your child is sick is because he's milk anemic. You're not feeding him the proper diet. In other words, the reason he was sick was our neglect. Ignorant as we were of his cause and illness, we began to administer to him the right vitamins. His anemia disappeared, and he became healthy. There are times when we must simply learn to obey God, whatever it may be. But my friend, let me tell you, know the voice of God in the time of trouble. He will never leave you nor forsake you.